making the not so obvious obvious.
This video is part of Shut Up and Shoot, that famous ebook, you know, the one you should be getting now. Alright, so welcome back, and now we're going to get into the fun stuff of actually chopping up some footage. And I want to point out, Premiere Pro does not really have a very efficient methodology, for lack of a better term, to batch process footage. Particularly if you take a master clip and cut it up. So keep that in mind. This is probably the best of two methods. I shouldn't say the best of two methods, actually. This is one of two methods of going about this. But there are some caveats, and I want to point those out to you because it's kind of important for you to understand where the gotchas are on these tutorials. So bear with me. I'm going to take a little time to do this so that you really can understand and see what's happening. Alright, so from when we opened the project, I loaded the footage, and what I did was I also renamed each sequence. So I call it Barn 1, Barn 2, Barn 3, and so on and so forth, Space 1. And you know, you can name these however you want. All you need to do is click on it and start typing away. This is a non-destructive rename, meaning it is not going to change the file name on your hard drive. It's just going to change the name in the project itself. Okay. After you rename them, make sure you save your project so that in case your computer crashes, which actually that never happens, so why even bother, right? Okay, so here we have one of the clips loaded in the source, and right now I'm just going to show you how you do that. Basically just grab the clip, drag and drop it into the source window, and voila, it's magic, it works. So there we have our clip, and now I need to chop this puppy up because it's probably too long for stock footage, and yeah, it's 5703, probably even a little more. Yeah, 5716. Oh yeah, right there, 5723. So I don't really want to have that complete length. I need short little clips because we're dealing with stock footage, and by definition stock footage is short, right? At least most of the agencies seem to think so. Most agencies are advertising anywhere from 2 to 30 seconds. And some agencies want 4 to 30 seconds. Other agencies want 4 to 1 minute. So it depends. Check with your agency how long your clips can be. Also, the length of the clip is also going to determine the file size based on the codec that you're using. So check with your agency to see what the maximum file size is, because that will impact how long a piece of footage can be. So you're going to have to experiment with that. Keep those things in your mind always. Alright, I personally like short clips. I like to present a lot of shorties. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this little scrubber bar here, and I'm going to move it right to the first frame of the clip. And it actually looks like a pretty decent frame, so I'm going to just mark that as my endpoint. And then I'm just going to move the scrubber bar, let's say, to 16 seconds. And I can do this here, by the way. As you can see, I just put my cursor on the number, and I can actually scroll back and forth exactly to where I want to go. And now I can mark that as my marker. And so now I have this section marked off inside this larger clip, and now I need to somehow extract that. And all I need to do to extract that is right click on the clip, click. You get the point. Right click on the clip and simply tell Premiere Pro, make me a subclip. And it automatically comes up and asks, hey, what name do you want this to be? And you notice that it has 07 because I was playing with this a little bit before just to make sure I knew what the heck I was talking about. So here we go. I'm going to clip number 1. And so now we have a subclip. And I'm going to do this again. I'm going to move my cursor, and oh yeah, that looks like a good endpoint. Yeah, he's standing up there looking at me funny. And yeah, that's a friend of mine from Hollywood. So, and here we go, and I'm just going to scream, and there we go. I've scrubbed over to here, and that's my new end marker. So now I have a new section, and I am going to see that it's 18 seconds and 7 frames. And that's cool. Make subclip, boom. And I'm going to renumber these manually. It usually starts at 1, but because I was messing around with it, so I just want to kind of keep it nice and neat for you guys so that you can visually see. And maybe we'll do one more. Just real quick. Mark in, mark out, and that looks cool. Okay, make subclip, and number 3. And now, if I want to do another one, I just drag the new footage in, and here we have a new piece of footage, and we can start all over again. In point, out point, right click, make subclip, boom. And now you notice that started at the proper place because I hadn't messed with that file yet. So I'm going to go there, that's a new endpoint, that's a new out point, and that's cool, 9 seconds and 29 frames. And I'm just assuming that this is all looking good. So when you do your footage, you'll know where to go to start the in point and out point. Usually there's a little camera shake at the beginning from pushing the button, whatever have you, so you want to leave that out. But in any case, so now I've created a bunch of subclips, and that's all nice and dandy, but that hasn't done much yet. All I've done is extracted pieces of footage out of the master pieces of footage that I brought in from my camera. I do want to do space because that is a little bit of a different animal, and I'm quite honestly tired of looking at the barn. So here we go. Here is space, the final frontier. I wonder if that line is trademarked. In any case, cool. Here's a rocket in point. I'm going to let that rocket fly by my nose. Here we go. And when you first do this, Adobe's got to kind of work its butt off in memory to kind of render this. So it'll be choppy, but if you do it a couple of times back and forth, or even, you know, let it pre-render depending on the video card you have, this might be really smooth. But in any case, I'm just going to go and scrub back and forth, and it's trying, and that's cool. But anyways, I'm going to make this a subclip. And this footage, by the way, is from NASA. So don't go thinking you can go get footage from NASA and turn it into stock footage that belongs to you. Footage from NASA is available to the general public because our tax dollar paid for it. But that does not mean you can turn around, cut it up, and then sell it. Okay? So be careful about that. Agencies should not allow that to happen, and probably don't. So be original, but I just wanted to bring this in because I just thought it was a really cool clip and it would bring a little bit of diversity to this tutorial. So anyway, so here we got these little subclips that we've chopped out, and now I need to somehow send them someplace. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to send them out to the render queue, and unfortunately I can't just select them all and send them out. It just doesn't work. You notice that the media is not highlighted because it doesn't know what to do with a whole bunch. And this is where it gets kind of weak on the batch processing. So what I need to do is I need to select a single clip, and I need to send that out one at a time. So I can do export media, or I can type Control M. So if I click on export media, I now come to where we actually tell it what codec do we want to render out as. And I've set up a couple of custom ones here. I have these two that I custom made, and I'm going to show you how you custom make this. First of all, let's pretend I don't have the correct codec here, so I'm just going to click on custom. And make sure that your wrapper is QuickTime. Most of the agencies want .mov. So you want to make sure you have QuickTime selected as the format, and then the preset is going to be the actual codec itself. So, taking that into consideration, I now have decided I'm going to go custom, or I could, for example, select one of these and then go modify it. So watch what happens. I'm going to change just one thing. Remember, this incoming footage is full high definition, so DV is no good. The minute I turn off one thing, it goes to custom. And I turned off audio because stock footage doesn't really need audio. You can leave the audio on there, but it just makes the file a little bit bigger, and most editors will rip it out anyways, unless it's really cool audio like an explosion or something. But in any case, so here we are, and now we've got to pick the right video codec. And obviously, because I had DV25 NTSC selected before, that's no good. What I really want is perhaps PNG or Photo JPEG or H.264. And what I'm picking here, or animation, those four codecs, or compression decompression algorithms, are the most commonly used codecs for the purpose of stock footage. All the others here pretty much fall by the wayside. So think about that. Check with your agency on their specifications. What will they accept? Will they accept Photo JPEG, PNG? Will they accept Motion JPEG? MJPEG-B is another one which is used for interlaced footage. H.264 becoming very popular. It is a super compressed, well, let's put it this way. It's a really cool top secret compression algorithm from Apple that works with all their iProducts really nicely and puts out super beautiful resolution. And it's been adapted now by most of the editing houses as being good enough for raw footage. So go figure. In any case, H.264 available across the Adobe product line. So even in the After Effects, this is available. All right, animation and PNG have something in common. They can both go to 32-bit. And let me show you where that is right here. And what does that mean? I emphasize, and I can't emphasize this enough, check chapter 7, I believe, or section 7 in the ebook, where I talk about alpha channels. That's what that has to do with. So basically your animation and your PNG will give you the option of having 32-bit depth. All the others are at 24-bit depth because they cannot have an alpha channel. So if I go to H.264, it does not have an alpha channel. It doesn't even give you choice. It's just 24-bit. Now, the other thing, make sure, as you see, the resolution is totally out of whack here. This should be 1920 by 1080. End of story. Make it match. Look over here. Anyways, back, make sure your frame rate is 29.97 for NTSC high def, also known as 30p. You notice they do have an option for 30. Yes, that could be used if your clip isn't like 2 hours long. These are possibilities. But really, stick with the standards, 29.97 or 24 for film, and 25 for PAL, which is a European standard. So I'm just going to leave this at 29.97 because my footage that's coming in is 29.97. Field type, progressive. This is where people usually get all confused. If it's progressive footage, select progressive. If it is interlaced, you might have upper or you might have lower. Check with your camera manufacturer which way and how it films. Typically for HDV, it's upper field first. And then the aspect ratio needs to be changed. It is not DV, it is not anamorphic, it's not HD anamorphic. We are a true 1920 by 1080, so we want to go to square pixels. If you make sure that these settings are correct, you are good to go. Now, we do want to name this guy and we want to save this because I don't want to have to re-enter this again. So what we do is we click on this little disk icon that says Save Preset, and I'm just going to call this new, oh, let's see, this is QuickTime, and all right, QT 30p NTSC HD. You can name it whatever you want. Name it something that you can remember and find again quickly, because you might not do something for a month or for a couple of weeks or for a day or for 10 minutes and then come back and you'll go, what was that codec I used? So make it somewhat obvious of what it is, okay? And let's see, what did we use? What are we using here? No, we don't want upper. No, this is wrong. Cancel this. I gotta fix this. Progressive. And we want which codec? Which codec are we using? H.264. Okay, so see, it pays to go and double check. All right, let's go save this puppy now. All right, so it's H. Let's go QT H.264 30p NTSC HD. Pretty much tells the whole story. I'm going to save that, and of course now I have a whole bunch because I created these custom ones here, but I just wanted to show you, name them logically so that you understand what you're doing. This is a little bit time consuming the first time only, but it's well worth it, and that's why I'm taking the time to go through all this stuff. So bear with me. I'm sorry this tutorial is probably driving you crazy and boring you to death, but hey, it had to be done. You had to suffer. You want to be in this business, you got to do it right. Okay, so here we have our first clip, and we are going to now send this off to the queue. We're not going to export. We are going to send it to the queue, because if we export, we're going to sit here and wait for it to render. So let's send it to the queue. Got it? The queue. And this is not a pool queue. We're not shooting any pool here. This is a queue in a product called Adobe Media Encoder, which comes along with Premiere Pro. It is part of the Adobe suite. And this media encoder is very powerful because you could in essence render the same clip to multiple different codecs, which is kind of cool. But anyways, you'll see I have a bunch of files here that already were pre-done, and I was just playing around with it to see if there's just by chance another way to do this. But anyways, here is Adobe Media Encoder, and I'm going to shrink down Premiere so that we can see these windows side by side, and so that you can actually see in real time what's going to happen. So I'm going to take the next file and I am going to export to media, or I could just type Control M, and now it's rendering so that I can see, and I can actually scroll through it and double check and make sure my footage is a good piece. Make sure I have the right codec preset. It should remember what we did last. I throw it in the queue, and boom. Now, here is the caveat. Be very careful. You'll notice if you grab these little handles here, you can actually shrink in size these columns. And this is kind of important because what you want to do is you want to make sure that these file names are different. Okay? And it's just this end. And you notice that it just created the same file again. So what I want to do is I want to go in here and rename that to Barn 1.2, because otherwise it will render this file and then come back and render this file right on top of that one, so you've just lost one. So this is one of the caveats. It's not so super automatic or super smart when it comes to remembering that we have actually different subclips here. Not nice, but hey, as long as you're aware of it, then you're good to go. Very important. Can't emphasize this enough. You're gonna have to manually go in. We're gonna do one more just so you can see. I'm just gonna click on it, type Control M, check everything. Yep, good, okay. Throw it in the queue, and again, make sure you change that file name so that it is different. And so you just keep adding these clips, and you'll notice that the queue just starts building up, and you can build this queue up really large, and you can have a ton of files in there, and you know, make this list really long. Just make sure your file names are all unique, and then when you have a full queue or all your footage processed to get ready to be rendered, now you simply click on this little start queue arrow up here and let it render. And you might want to let this happen overnight, depending on how many files you have. But the last thing you want to do is sit here and watch it render. I would rather go out and watch the grass grow, to be honest with you. At least then I'm getting fresh air. But this is the purpose of batch processing. Let this stuff do it overnight. Let your computer work while you're not there. Start the render and go out and film something new. And by the way, if you have errors in the queue, or you have something that you don't want in the queue, you can just simply highlight it and then click minus, and it will ask, do you want to remove this from your queue? So that's as simple as it gets. If you need to render something in 2 different codecs, you can actually type Control-D, and it will duplicate that file. And look, it actually got smart enough to add another 1 onto it, or another digit to make it unique. And now you can actually go in and change the codec. However, this takes a little bit of time. It's got to go, and now we can change the codec, for example, to a photo JPEG for that one specific file. Or I can make it whatever I want. I can pick out any other wrapper. But remember, QuickTime is predominant, so we'll leave it. But I just wanted to show you that. Those are a couple of little dirty tricks, so that if you do want to have multiple outs, because one agency may want H.264, another agency may want photo JPEG. So this is a quick way to render out for all the agencies. The key thing is naming your file so that you remember which agency is what. Kind of important. Otherwise you're going to get really confused and you'll go, how come I have this piece of footage twice or 3 times or even 4 times? So just make sure that you keep really well organized in your file naming conventions and where you put this stuff. Alright, that's it for this part, and in the next video I'm going to show you an alternative method to getting there a little bit quicker. See you soon.